My wife changed overnight secret calls, hidden messages. So I moved all my money in silence. 2 weeks later, she filed for divorce and collapsed when the truth hit her. I'm 33 and manage projects at a tech firm in Austin, Texas. My wife Lauren is 30 and works in marketing for a startup downtown. We met in college, married 3 years ago, and moved into a small brick house just outside the city. From the outside, our life looked stable. We both had solid careers, a comfortable income, and friends who thought we were the perfect couple. Inside the house, though, something subtle had started to shift, the kind of quiet tension you can't prove but can feel in your bones. It began with her phone. She used to toss it on the couch when she got home, but lately it was glued to her hand. I would hear faint vibrations at midnight, see her tilt the screen away when I entered the room. When I asked what was going on, she laughed and said she was helping her team with late strategy calls. I wanted to believe her. People in startups work odd hours. Still, the smile she gave me was too practiced, and the perfume that lingered on her jacket wasn't the one she usually wore. At first, I convinced myself I was overthinking. Work had been stressful, and I didn't want paranoia to destroy what we had. I tried to focus on my projects, gym sessions, and Sunday dinners at my parents' house. Yet the unease kept creeping back. Every little thing seemed rehearsed. She started dressing up more, claiming it boosted her confidence. New dresses, different lipstick, shoes I hadn't seen before. When I complimented her, she brushed it off and changed the subject. One Friday night, she came home later than usual. The sound of her car in the driveway woke me. She walked in smelling faintly of men's cologne. It wasn't mine. I asked how work went, keeping my tone light, and she replied that I worried too much. She gave me a kiss on the cheek, poured herself a glass of wine, and sat scrolling through her phone. I remember watching the reflection of the screen light on her face, trying to read her expression, trying to understand if I was imagining the distance growing between us. That night, I couldn't sleep. The air felt heavy, filled with questions I didn't know how to ask without sounding desperate. Around 3 a.m, I went downstairs, opened my laptop, and logged into our joint bank account. The numbers were off. 2 transfers stood out, both large, both labeled as cash withdrawals. I scrolled through the transactions again, hoping I'd missed something, but the amounts were real and recent. My stomach tightened. She had access to that account. I closed the laptop and sat there in the dark kitchen, the refrigerator humming softly. Every instinct told me to confront her, but something in me hesitated. If I was right, and she was preparing to leave, or worse, I needed to be smart. If I was wrong, confronting her would only push her further away. I decided on silence. The next morning, while she showered, I called my bank. I asked to reopen an old personal account I had from before our marriage. It took 10 minutes. I transferred my savings, my emergency fund, and every cent of my upcoming paycheck into that account. Then I changed my direct deposit and locked everything behind new passwords. I left a small balance in the joint account to avoid suspicion, just enough to keep things looking normal. That weekend she was distant but calm, maybe even relieved. I spent my time pretending everything was fine, cooking breakfast, making small talk about her coworkers. She smiled, yet there was something hollow behind it. When she left for brunch with friends on Sunday, I watched her car disappear down the street and wondered if she was meeting someone else. The truth didn't hurt as much as the waiting. Each day after that, I played my part. I went to work, paid bills, and acted like the husband she thought she could outsmart. Inside, I was steady, almost cold. My friends noticed I was quieter than usual, but I told them I was focused on a new project. In reality, I was watching the walls of our marriage tilt, ready for the collapse. Looking back, I realized that decision to move my money wasn't only financial. It was instinctual self-protection. I didn't know exactly what Lauren was planning, but I could feel it gathering behind her eyes when she looked at me. I knew that if she ever tried to pull the rug out from under me, she'd find the floor empty. By the time 2 weeks passed, everything of mine was secure. My accounts were locked, my paycheck safe, my mind strangely at peace. I stopped checking her phone or tracking her moods. I no longer needed proof. Whatever truth she was hiding would eventually walk through that front door, and when it did, I would be ready. 2 weeks later, on a warm Thursday evening, Lauren came home earlier than usual. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, pretending to work, but my eyes followed every sound from the front door. She entered looking like she had stepped out of a magazine cover, wearing a black dress I had never seen before, makeup perfectly applied, and not a single strand of hair out of place. She didn't put her purse down or take off her heels. She just stood there in the living room, arms crossed, expression fixed in that blank calm that only comes when a decision has already been made. I asked if everything was okay, but she didn't answer. Instead, she took a deep breath, her eyes cold and steady, and said we needed to talk. The way she said it sounded like a script. No tremor, no hesitation, no sadness. Just an announcement. My chest tightened. I closed the laptop and waited for the words I already felt coming. She said she had been unhappy for a long time, that our marriage wasn't working, and that she thought divorce was the right move. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I studied her face, the flawless confidence behind her carefully chosen words. Then I asked the question that had been sitting in the back of my throat for weeks. I asked if she had already spoken to someone about this. Her eyes flickered just for a second, a tiny crack in her composure, before she asked why I would say that. The universe must have a sense of timing because her phone lit up on the counter at that exact moment. I didn't even need to touch it. The screen flashed bright enough for both of us to see the message preview. Dinner later, followed by a name I didn't recognize and a heart emoji beside it. Jason. The silence that followed was heavy and sharp. I leaned back against the couch and smiled, not out of humor, but out of understanding. Guess you're not planning to eat here, I said. The color drained from her face. She snatched the phone from the counter as if it were a weapon she needed to hide. She tried to recover, her voice rising as she told me not to twist things, that I was making the situation toxic. Her words slid past me. I had already seen enough. I stood up slowly, calm in a way that almost scared me. I told her toxic was secretly draining our joint account without a conversation. Toxic was pretending to be overworked while going on dinner dates. I asked if Jason needed a new watch or maybe something more expensive. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her eyes darted away like a child caught lying. The room felt strangely still. The faint hum of the refrigerator was the only sound between us. She tried to turn the conversation around, saying she just wanted peace and that I was overreacting. I told her peace doesn't need lies to breathe. Then I reached for my jacket hanging by the door. I told her if she was filing, she should file fast because she would find the account a little lighter than last time she checked. Her confusion was almost satisfying. She frowned, trying to process what I meant, and for a moment, I saw panic flicker through her perfect mask. I didn't stay long enough to explain. I walked past her, opened the door, and stepped outside into the quiet Texas evening. The air felt different, clean and unfiltered. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe without waiting for the next excuse or explanation. I drove straight to my brother's apartment across town. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and turned on the game. We watched in silence. I remember the relief washing over me in slow waves, the weight of suspicion finally off my chest. I didn't even check my phone for her messages that night. I didn't care if she called or tried to explain. The truth had already spoken loud enough. When I lay down on the couch, my brother's dog curled up near my feet. It was the first real sleep I had had in months. No late-night whispers, no fake apologies, no endless analysis of what went wrong. Just the simple sound of my own breathing and the quiet realization that I had walked away before losing more than money. The next morning, I woke up early, feeling lighter than I had in years. The sunlight streamed through the blinds, and for the first time, it didn't remind me of another day to fake a smile. It reminded me that freedom sometimes arrives disguised as heartbreak. I made coffee, called my office, and told them I was working from home for a few days. Then I sat back on the couch, staring at the city skyline through the window, and thought about the moment she said she was unhappy. She wasn't wrong. She had been unhappy for a long time. So had I. The difference was that I still had honesty. She traded hers for attention. That night marked the end of my marriage, but it was also the beginning of something I didn't know I was missing. Peace. Within 24 hours of walking out, my phone started lighting up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls, text messages, and voice notes that swung between fake apologies and crocodile tears. At first, she tried the soft approach, saying she wanted to talk, that things had just gotten too emotional. When I ignored her, she switched to guilt, accusing me of abandoning her, of giving up on our marriage too easily. I stayed silent. Every message she sent only confirmed that leaving had been the right decision. By the next morning, a new email appeared in my inbox from a law firm I didn't recognize. It was from her attorney, formal and polished, declaring that Lauren was filing for divorce and seeking a fair division of marital assets. I laughed out loud. Fair division, coming from the same woman who had been siphoning cash behind my back. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I forwarded the message to my own attorney and waited for her reality to hit. It didn't take long. Later that afternoon, my lawyer called, amused. He told me her legal team had just discovered there wasn't much left to divide. The savings account she assumed was full was nearly empty, and every cent that remained was tied to my verifiable income. Legally, it was mine. The joint credit card she used for her so-called work dinners was canceled, and the business line she opened for her boutique hobby had been closed with a balance of zero. I could almost imagine her face when she realized the safety net she thought she had carefully built was gone. Her version of power had always depended on control, and suddenly, control wasn't hers anymore. I didn't need to gloat. The silence did it for me. That evening, she tried a different tactic. She posted a photo on Instagram, smiling beside a glass of wine with a caption that read, "Starting over stronger than ever." The comments poured in with hearts and motivational quotes. Her friends cheered her on as if she were a heroine escaping tragedy instead of a woman escaping accountability. I said nothing. The world didn't need my side of the story. A week later, a mutual friend tagged her at a bar downtown. The photo showed her with Jason, the same coworker whose name had appeared on her phone that night. He was sitting beside her, but staring off into the distance, his expression more trapped than happy. It didn't surprise me. I knew how quickly excitement fades when built on deception. The likes on that post were fewer this time, the comments quieter. Maybe her audience was starting to see through the performance. While she played her social media games, I focused on my life. I took a portion of the money I had moved and paid off my truck in full. The rest I used to surprise my mom for her 60th birthday. She had always dreamed of visiting Florida, so I booked us a week at a quiet beach resort. Watching her stand at the edge of the water, her hair whipping in the wind, eyes bright with gratitude, felt better than any revenge could ever offer. For the first time in years, I felt peace instead of pressure. During that trip, Lauren texted again. She said I didn't have to be so cruel, that she never wanted things to get this ugly. I looked at the message and let out a slow breath before replying. I told her I wasn't being cruel, only prepared. There was a long pause before her response came through. She said she hoped I could live with myself. I smiled and put my phone away. Living with myself was exactly what I was doing, and for once, it felt good. When I got back to Austin, I started reorganizing my life piece by piece. I changed the locks on the house, sold a few things that reminded me of her, and gave the rest to charity. I learned to cook simple meals, played basketball with coworkers on weekends, and slept without that gnawing sense of suspicion. Each night, the air in the house felt a little lighter, as if the walls themselves were exhaling. A mutual acquaintance told me that Lauren had tried to launch her boutique again, but struggled to find investors. Her confidence had always come from the illusion of stability, and now that illusion was gone. She tried to reach out one last time, sending a long message about closure and forgiveness. I didn't respond. Some doors don't need to be slammed to be closed. I saved the last of my transferred money in an investment account. It wasn't about greed. It was about rebuilding a future that no longer included deception. When I thought about her lawyer's email asking for a fair division, I finally understood fairness. It wasn't about splitting assets. It was about balance, and I had finally restored mine. That night, I sat on my porch, the same spot where I had once waited for her car to pull into the driveway. The air was quiet, the Texas sky clear. I realized that peace isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself. It just arrives when you stop defending yourself against the wrong people. Cruel? No. Prepared? Absolutely. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. The process was surprisingly calm, handled mostly through emails and signatures. When it ended, I kept the house, the car, and the one thing she could never reclaim, my peace. Lauren moved out quietly, leaving behind a few clothes and the faint smell of her perfume. Within weeks, she had moved in with Jason, the same coworker who had once been just a name on her phone. For a brief moment, I wondered if they would make it work, but word spread quickly through mutual friends that Jason had gone back to his ex barely 2 weeks later. That news didn't bring me joy, just confirmation that lies never build a lasting home. I focused on rebuilding mine. I started therapy to untangle the knots left behind by months of confusion and doubt. It helped me understand how easily people confuse comfort with connection. Every Saturday morning, I met with a hiking group that explored the hill country trails around Austin. The first few times I was quiet, keeping my thoughts to myself, but slowly I began to enjoy the laughter, the steady rhythm of boots on dirt, and the way strangers shared stories without judgment. Work became my anchor. My performance improved because my mind was finally clear. I stopped checking my phone obsessively and started leading my team with confidence. A few months in, my boss called me into his office and told me I was being promoted to senior project manager. The raise felt nice, but what really mattered was the sense of control I had regained. My life wasn't dictated by someone else's moods or secrets anymore. One night, after finishing a long report, I sat on the couch scrolling through old photos. I stopped at one from our wedding day, the two of us standing under a white arch, both smiling as if we believed we had figured out love. I stared at it for a long time, trying to recognize the people in the picture. They looked happy, but also blind. Neither of them knew who the other truly was or how fragile the foundation beneath them had been. I pressed delete and felt nothing but relief. Some memories deserve to fade quietly. Last week, just before midnight, a message appeared from an unfamiliar number. It was her. She said she had made mistakes and wished we could talk. I read it twice, then set the phone down. My first instinct was to ignore it, but something in me wanted closure, not through conversation, but through truth. After a minute, I picked the phone back up and typed a single sentence. We already did. Then I turned off the screen and let silence answer for me. These days, my life has a rhythm I didn't know I needed. Every Friday evening, I sit on the porch as the sun dips low over the Texas hills. My dog, Max, lies at my feet, content and quiet. I drink a cold beer, watch the streetlights flicker on, and let the soft hum of country music fill the air. No arguments, no second-guessing, no pretending that something broken can still be fixed. Sometimes neighbors wave as they walk their dogs, and I wave back with an easy smile. I don't tell them the story that brought me here. I don't need to. Everything that happened led to this moment, the calm after the storm, the peace that comes when you finally stop holding on to people who only drain you. It turns out moving my money had never been about protecting a bank account. It was about protecting my future, my sanity, and the version of myself that refused to be fooled again. For the first time in years, I felt rich, not in dollars, but in freedom.